sand today.
Good morning, man. There'll be one pulled off on this side here. One at Winston and one out there at Claysoda.
I've enjoyed the long march.
Call this meeting to order, the Broadwater Commissioners for May 1st, 2017. Stand for the pledge.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Good morning to all of you. We'll start off with public comment. Do we have any public comment? Okay, no public comment. Did you get the minutes here, Ann?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of, what is that date? April 24th, 2017 is circulated.
Second motion.
Motion made and seconded to accept the minutes of April 24th, 2017. Any more discussion? No more discussion, we'll vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. Mike, how you doing?
Doing good.
Okay. We've got a few minutes before our next, our COS, which I see we have today.
Yes.
So,
Before we move on, I'd like to request that we continue and finish our agenda item at 10 o'clock, Commissioners' Community Update. I think it's important that the citizens know what we do on their behalf in between our meetings. With that being said, there was a number of meetings at the legislature this last week specifically to try and keep the Montana Board of Crime Control from being dismantled. I'd like to talk to you guys a little bit about that and some of the financial ramifications to the county. We also had our regional meeting for our juvenile detention facility, which Broadwater County uses Cascade County. I have an update for you on that as well, perhaps at the end of today's meeting. And then there's been a number of community meetings on some of the ongoing issues. So that's all I have.
okay. We have a letter here from the food pantry thanking for the donation for them to continue on. We have payroll here in the amount of $171,479.87.
Move to approve payroll in the amount stated.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made and seconded to pay payroll in the amount of $171,470.87. Any more discussion? No discussion, we'll go through a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. claims, $25,808.65.
I'll make a motion to pay the claims as amount stated.
Second the motion to pay those approved claims.
Motion is made and seconded to pay the amount of claims, $25,808.65. We'll go to a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed. This is for the Townsend Rotary Fall Fest. I guess this
Franklin, were those paper clipped together?
is, yeah.
Those are all from Laura, the Proud paper clipped together.
I wasn't here last Friday, again, due to the legislature, but anything that is for me, just go ahead and put it on my desk. Doesn't need to be a
Okay.
commission business.
I just grabbed everything that was up there. Public notice from DEQ. It's a wastewater treatment plant for the city of Dillon. I'm just interested in that. Historical Society on the Stone Hills Prehistoric District, southwest towns. I think we, didn't they say that was Stanton or something, right?
That was brought up last week, but we didn't finish our work on it. So I
Yeah.
put it back in the mailbox so we can actually do commission work on our mail.
I don't know if we're in support of the Historical Society. Go ahead.
I move to voice our support on behalf of Broadwater County citizens.
I'll second.
Move and second to support this, the Montana Historical Society for the Stone Hill Springs Prehistoric District. Then move and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Franklin, I missed some stuff here. You put your name and title under address, which is fine, but under address, if you would fill in the address information so that they have that. If you put that under your name, it'd be
I'm sure you have.
confusing.
Put in the courthouse here. Been here before, so I'm sure it's on their record.
And what they're looking for is the county address, Franklin,
That's
which is
what's on
five,
there.
no, it's 515.
That was 519. Well, I'm sure we'll get to the courthouse, all right. Well, this is I think this was here before, just trying to, anyway, there's the catalog there. These are some journal entries, like I'll put those with the rest of them there then. I think that's what the rest of them are here, let's see. Oh, this is before the Headwaters Company out of buildings. And then you have to-
Pass that back to the chairman.
Okay.
Ready for me?
COS.
Good morning. First survey I have for you is a boundary relocation for Bill Lane over in the Winston area.
You mean Toston?
I mean Toston, yeah, my brains. Anyways, he's amending this boundary here.
That's where his house is, I mean.
Yeah, the shop and the house.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a parcel and they're moving the new boundary down here to make a couple, acre and a half around it.
I'll move to support the boundary relocation for Lane.
I'll second the motion.
Move a second to accept the foundation. Boundary location for Bill Lane. Any discussion? No discussion, go to a vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carried.
This next one is another boundary relocation for Dale Price at the south end of the county near Three Forks. And this parcel tract B went to the section line, and what they're doing is holding the road center line. And made a nicer boundary than for pieces to be on both sides here. But, and it does go all the way around, but they moved the boundary from there to there.
No, okay.
Move to support the boundary relocation for Price.
I'll second the motion.
Motion made, second, accept the boundary relocation for, what is it, Dale Price?
Dale Price.
Price. Any discussion? No more discussion? Call for a vote, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Just the two COSs today, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Nicole Brown, Young Director, Happy Trails, request for preliminary plat approval.
Good morning. What I'm gonna pass around to you is some amended conditions. I did not print the entire findings of fact document that I gave you a few weeks ago.
Thank you.
One person. I have to make extra copies for the attorney because I need one for myself. I thought I had enough, and I'm sorry. And can I borrow yours to read off of so I can share? Thank you. Alex, would you like one of these? Sorry, do you want to?
Thank you.
So, as you recall, the Happy Trails subsequent minor subdivision, they are looking to receive preliminary plat approval. After our meeting a few weeks ago, we had some discussion. I know attorneys Holly Franz and Alice Henshaw have met to come up with some agreement language. I've put them into conditions here, and so the way I'd like to proceed with this is to read to you the amended conditions. I'll just read the two that I added, and then if we can have discussion about it, is that okay with you if we proceed that way? Okay. So I added a condition, number 2, in the packet that you have there. Condition number 2 reads, a ditch and pipeline easement signed and notarized by both the developer and the water right holder shall be filed with the final plat. So that is a condition that's been added from the last presentation and reading. Another condition that's been added, amended, not added. If you look at number 6. Number 6, it reads, the developer shall submit evidence that the proposed change in use has been reviewed by the Montana Department of Natural Resources and Conservation, Montana DNRC, prior to final plat. The amendment to this condition, I changed the word approved to reviewed. The reason for that, I spoke with a gentleman at DNRC, and they do not approve until a plat has been filed. And so we'd essentially be holding this up because DNRC cannot approve until the plat's filed. If we were withholding filing of the final plat, waiting for approval, they would never get it. So I had a fairly lengthy discussion with the gentleman there at DNRC, and he said they absolutely can review it and it will be approved once the plat is filed. So that's the change of this condition. So from approved to reviewed. Number 2. The reason for the addition of number 2 is from an email I have received from Holly Franz. And Holly, I did not make copies of this because there was the disclaimer on your email that it was for the intended recipient. So I'm not sure if you or Alice want to speak to this. Okay,
yes.
Perfect. I didn't want to assume. So maybe I'll let Holly or Alice, one of the attorneys here, speak about this agreement that they came up with. The reason that I put this, I condensed all of this language here into this condition is because I think that these agreements that they came up with would be better served in a separate document, an easement agreement, similar to what was proposed in the application and also what was filed for Galzagories. It was a separate document, but it's actually it's recorded, it's filed here in the county. So it's not cluttering up the plat, and it makes it, I believe, much more clear for anyone doing research on this or wanting to look at the plat if they can look at a supplementary document as opposed to trying to discern what belongs where on the plat. So, Holly or Alice, would you like to speak to this at all by chance? Not to put you on the spot, but I'm putting you on the spot.
Very fine. My name's Holly Franz, and I'm representing the Marxists, and we did come to a agreement with the Wasines about the conditions that we thought was necessary, both of us, to protect our interest and their interest, quite frankly, in the ditch and the pipeline. And if I could, I'd pass those out.
I'm gonna slide over here so I'm not in front of you.
Thank you.
And I want to let the commissioners know that on Friday, the Wassings did have a company out, and they did successfully locate the location of the pipeline, and the surveyors were out there, and I think that will be reflected on the plat. I suppose it'll be the final plat when they get it.
Yep, and Bernadette actually has a
Oh,
preliminary
Bernadette.
drawing of it as well,
Okay.
just to share with you.
Pipeline easement was right here, and the dark blue line was the located pipeline.
How close was it to the marks that the Herb made out there?
Well, actually, I haven't seen the
Oh.
plat, so I
Oh, okay, I don't know.
Virtually not close.
No.
It was a good thing to have the company come out.
No, some places it was 50 feet. There's only a couple places that it was accurate. And that didn't matter how it was witched or sounded or whatever. It was more exact just looking by eyeball from where we knew the water started to where it was going. And the stakes we put that way, some of them were right on the pipe, so it's almost perfectly straight. There's just a couple little waves, and I think it appears that way because the ground's going like this, but I think if you were up above and you looked straight down on it, it probably would be just as straight as line as it could be. But we found the pipe all the places that we checked, we have photo evidence of where it's at, and they recorded the depth of it.
What means do they use?
A daylighting machine, they use high pressure washer, or a high pressure water, and a huge vacuum pump. And they literally
Yeah.
do holes in the ground and vacuum all the soil and stuff out, so when he's done, once the pipe's located, it's like you have a dry hole there and you can see all the printing on the pipe.
Yeah.
And there were several of us, and we found all the way. We had one point that just, before nobody was even close, and once we found that point, the rest of it was pretty much a straight line. An incredible piece of machinery, but they cost $1 million.
Yeah. I've been around when they were working. Yeah, it is something all right. Other than-
And I think just one of the little bends that they mentioned went outside of that 30-foot easement that was shown on the plat.
Was you
So
there, Jeff?
it was all
No, I
within the
wasn't.
easement.
Hollywood.
I was there.
I mean, it's interesting how that works.
Yeah.
It was very interesting to see that. So, and of these conditions, so you can see, it's an agreement for a 30-foot easement, 15 wide on either side, and there's also agreement for a 50-foot no-build setback from the center line of the pipeline, so that if need be to, well, first for, the Wassings use that ditch for irrigation, but also to get in if they need big equipment, there's not gonna be a garage in the way.
The document they have, is that the same one you emailed me? I assume,
Yes,
right?
it
Okay.
is.
So, looking over this, paragraphs 1, 2, 5, and 6, I believe can be added as a separate agreement. I spoke with Bernadette this morning, the representative to the developer, about possibly doing an exhibit. An exhibit is where it's just the same picture of the survey. In fact, I think I have a copy of the exhibit in the book here for the easement. An exhibit, and then all of this easement language that would then be signed and notarized by both the developer and the current water right holder. I'm not certain that it would be a good idea to actually put names in there. as in the Marxes and the Messines, because it may be someone different. So this is an example of what an exhibit would look like. Sorry, there's probably writing on the back there that you can't see. So you can see the survey, and this is not of the pipeline, this is of the easement. This is just showing you what the exhibit would look like. So there would be the survey with the meets and bounds and then all of the legal information in here. The only thing that would be added would be signature lines for both the current landowner and the current water right holder to be recorded with the plat. It's a legally recordable document. It would have the book and page on there. It would be there for perpetuity. So that's my suggestion, as opposed to adding these as conditions. My thought for not wanting to add these in as conditions, a couple of reasons. First of all, we're setting a precedent, and I don't know, without doing a significant amount of research, where in MCA this falls into subdivision regulations. As you see, all of the conditions I give you, with the exception of that number 2 and number 6 that I added, there's MCA codes, there's subdivision regulation references. I don't have that for these. But I strongly feel that that supplementary document, it's still a legal document, would satisfy all of these. I'm sorry, would satisfy 1, 2, 5, and 6. My question on number 3, paragraph 3, it appears to be the same as number 1. And number 4, regarding this 100-foot no-build setback and the 50-foot setback, those are already in Happy Trails proposed covenants.
Okay.
Is the 50, I'm not sure if the 50-foot no-build is already in the covenants.
From the water
From
system?
the water system. I know the 100, I know the 100.
The 100 is, but
I
I don't
thought
know.
the 50 was.
The 50 is,
Okay.
that's right.
Well, we can absolutely, I thought that I'd read that in there. Where are the proposed covenants? But that, I believe, can be added. I don't know that you'd want to make it a commission-required covenant, I suppose. That's really your choice. Or if you want to have them added as their covenants and show it on the plat.
If you'll probably show it on the plat, all right.
I think it should be shown on the plat for sure, because then it gives you that visual. I've gone back and forth on whether or not it should be a commission-required covenant. Do you want to enforce that?
If we don't do it that way and it just is a legal document that goes with the filing of the plat, then it's still defensible. It's just not the commissioners that defended it. It would be
Attorneys in civil court.
attorneys. Yeah, I think that would be better for the county
Mhm.
myself.
That was my thought too. But Corey hasn't weighed in on this. I know he's busy with court today. It's important to have, I believe, the Marx's attorneys, Wasseen's attorneys, and also the county's attorneys, because there really are 3 sides to this that need to be protected. Obviously, my number 1 interest is the county, is you folks, but so that's just my non-legal opinion, that it might be better as a supplementary document in the way that these things have worked in the past.
So what's pleasure of the board?
Yeah, I would think that we just put that on the supporting document, not on the plat. That's what you said, right?
Not make it, this is a standalone.
Okay.
It's not just included in the commissioner's covenants. It's easier to find, it's easier to read. It's not one of, 22?
13 conditions.
Right.
Yeah.
It's its own standalone, so it's stronger and it's easier
Okay.
to find.
I'd be okay with that.
And also, too, I'm sorry not to interrupt, but just to maybe add a little bit of teeth to that, this findings of fact, it is signed, but it's not recorded. So it is signed by all of you. It's attested to by the clerk and recorder's office, but it's not recorded. So I can't speak to the legality of that, but if it's a recorded document, that just makes it a little more strong, I would feel.
motion? Or just leave it as a standalone?
Nicole, this would just be incorporated into the whole preliminary plat at this
You-
point.
You could
correct?
accept these conditions that are laid out before you here today, and you could sign that. These are options. You could accept these conditions, the amended conditions that were presented from last week, or I'm sorry, last time, and you could give it preliminary plat approval with these conditions, or you could make a separate motion regarding this document, if there's another way that you want this to be worked into the preliminary plat approval, this document from Holly and Alice.
Both groups are agreeing with everything.
Seemingly, it's not signed or notarized, so,
I was just asking if both groups are
okay.
in
Yes, we are.
accordance with this. And so then I guess the only other thing would be is if we want to get Corey's opinion on that, but as far as that shouldn't have anything to affect on the signing and or giving approval to the preliminary plot.
Not necessarily with the preliminary plat. I believe that Corey absolutely should look at it on behalf of the county before it goes to final. So,
Okay.
this will be a condition of approval for the Wassines to meet this condition of approval. The burden is then on the Wassines to draft the language, the Wassines or their representative, whomever, to draft the language for this agreement, incorporating all of this information into the agreement. I myself would feel more comfortable before I came to you to request final plat approval to have it go through legal counsel on behalf of the county as well.
Okay.
Which in this instance would be Corey, or if he suggested that I send it on to a Mako attorney, whichever his preference is. So that's how that would track. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd say so. Do you want to ask for the approval of the preliminary then?
If you're comfortable moving forward with it, and and then maybe open it up for discussion, because I did not have an opportunity to speak with Mark's attorney or Wassine's attorney on how they feel about me taking this document and condensing it into one condition. So I suppose if you call for the vote and then open it up before you, if you call for the question and then before you call for the vote, open it up for comment.
I'm not
Possibly.
sure. I'm confused now. The main thing is that both sides are agreeing on this here.
They're
And the
agreeing on
thing-
this.
and- yeah, right, and the thing, what we do is, we can vote for preliminary approval. And the rest of the legal stuff is gonna be before the final approval.
Before the final approval. But if before you call for the question, if you open it up for comment.
How does everybody feel on this?
I'll make the motion to approve the preliminary plat for Happy Trails subdivision and to use this conditions for approval of Happy Trails subsequent minor division with a condensed version to be done by the involved parties' attorneys and approved by the county attorney.
I will second for discussion.
Okay, so moved and seconded. More discussion?
The other thing that I would like on here is, again, it goes back to Galsagori's, but there was an email requesting that we, on a continual basis, have Appendix M worked out. And that is the sanitarian review. I'd like that included as well.
Okay.
And there's a number of check marks just for her review.
So under item number 1, or condition of approval number 1, it would be approved by the county environmental health department. And so that would be, Appendix M would come before you for final plat approval, because that would come along with her letter of approval. Does that satisfy your,
The entirety of Appendix M, yes.
the entirety of Appendix M? Okay,
Yeah.
perfect. Would you like me to amend condition number 1 to add that?
Yeah,
That might be a
please.
good
I think yeah, okay. So, I'm just going to add this in to condition number 1. So condition number 1 will read as it is with the addition of this statement that states the entire Appendix M of Broadwater County subdivision regulations. I better make myself more clear about this. Appendix M of Broadwater County subdivision regulations must be presented in its entirety for final plat approval.
Yeah, that
Okay.
works for me.
Okay, any more discussion? No more discussion, we'll go to a vote.
I would like to ensure that the motion is amended to include change in language to number 1.
I'll amend said motion to include all appendix M.
Okay. Any more discussion on the amendment to the motion? If not, we'll go for the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passed.
Would you sign this one for me? Sorry. Thank you.
Well, with this, it looks like everything come to a successful conclusion here. Other than these few minor things, everything should be. Thank you, folks.
Yeah, I think so.
I just want to see how it works.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I around that.
Yeah. They want to disclose you, that's what that is. Pretty.
Where did all this dirt come from?
My husband piled it up
Oh, okay. I just wanted to
around the,
came
oh,
out
yeah,
with
there's no, it's just like a big vacuum.
Looks like a lot of fun.
That's amazing, isn't it?
I could do some dredging.
Move that around.
Yeah,
Gold mine.
excuse me,
Yeah.
How deep did it go?
Well, I know
we
that
have, you never see it.
out at my place there, because there was a buried pipeline,
Yeah.
so they went
Yeah.
down for the new power pole, they went out
Fine.
7 foot. And
Yeah.
I just walked out to change water, and I was back, and it was done. And of course, that was a little easier ground, but it takes up the rocks or whatever. Okay, where do we at here? Okay. Wage, position classification, mark adjustment, new hire policy. Who wants to bring that out?
This is there's copies of this policy if anybody would like one, just on the corner here. This is a very benign change in policy we've been grappling with for a couple of weeks now. This is our personnel policy handbook. This is kind of the Bible that all employees are managed under. And this is vetted in law. I think it's Title 39 that determines employee laws that we manage all of you and your staff with. What we have in here are a number of policies that we publish and share with department heads so that you know what the expectations are of you in managing your staff. So, one of the things brought up last week is that we didn't have a hiring policy. We do. And I have it here and I want to submit it for the record. And what this does is it just shares what the hiring process is. You have to have a panel. You have to have justifications for your decisions. The panel has to agree. It's good two pages long on the process we follow. So all this is a memo that gives more flexibility. The previous memo had a low end that you had to hire at, up to a high end, 75 to 82%. And that's what we follow for all department heads across the board because we have to treat everybody equitably. The law does not allow us to play favorites. It doesn't allow us to retaliate. It doesn't allow us to make exceptions for friendships. So all this does is change the policy to make it okay that we broke it. And all this does is open it up. A department head can now hire somebody at less than 75% if they choose. And it opens up, since we did hire somebody at 90%, it gives department heads the opportunity, not the requirement, to come to the commissioners and ask for a market adjustment for their staff. Had we had the policy we have now, the salary matrix, we would actually be saving Broadwater County citizens over $30,000 a year. That's because some of our higher paid folks are paid at substantially over median, 117% over, 123% over. If all of those had been part of the salary matrix and everybody were more at the median rate, we would actually be saving taxpayers over $30,000 per year. So all I'm asking for is a change to the policy to reflect what we've done and give clear guidance to our department heads on how to manage their staff moving forward. And I would ask for a vote on the memo. We've discussed it now for 2 weeks. This is week 3. So with that, I will make a motion that we go ahead and adopt the memo regarding the salary matrix and the median wages.
I'll second the motion for discussion.
Motion made and seconded to adopt the salary matrix. For discussion.
Not the salary matrix, the memo of guidance regarding starting salaries and market adjustments.
So I don't have that much problem with this. I would like to see what the financial impact would be on the county. And also, I think that at some point in there that you have to consider the benefit package of the county. It's above and beyond what most employers provide for people. And I think that it has to be considered as part of that wage salary.
I think both those are easily done. Since this is a case-by-case basis, we can discuss both at the time.
So what, do we know what the financial impact is for doing this, or is it still part of the case-by-case as far as current employees that we're bringing up? We can't reduce anybody's salary, right, that we're paying over and above what the analysis says?
That is correct. You can never reduce somebody's salary unless they take a job that pays less. That's part of a whole different process. There is no financial impact. This memo does not guarantee anything. So there is no financial impact. If a department head has an employee at 73% of median and wants to raise them up to 80, even though this state's 90, they don't have to go to 90. So they're bringing up their employee from 73% to 80%. For that case, we would look at what the financial impact is. We would ask the same questions that we have from day one on market adjustments, and there are 3 of them. 1, can you afford it? Can your budget afford it? 2, is it justified? Show us the need. And 3, does it fit within the market adjustment? With the matrix, number 3 is really easy. The other 2, when you're bringing up somebody by that small of a percentage, it is a minimal financial impact anyway. But this memo doesn't have a financial impact.
Well, I think there's a financial impact. Anytime that there's gonna be an increase, there has to be a financial impact, and we don't know if it's gonna be 1 or if it's gonna be 10.
But
So
this
there's gonna be a
memo
financial-
does not have a financial impact. This memo is just to give guidance to our department heads to manage their staff. There is no financial impact on that whatsoever.
But it opens up for a financial impact.
We're open up to that right now because we are open to a wage challenge by our staff for violating county policy. All this does is protect the county, it protects the taxpayers, and it gives our department heads the tools to manage their staff. The financial impact is on a case-by-case basis. The financial impact was when we violated policy and hired somebody new at 90%, opposed to the policy we had adopted.
Now it's a completely different situation.
No, that was a financial impact. And if there's a wage challenge against this county, it's a big financial impact. All this does is give protection to the county, the taxpayers, and guidance to the department heads. And I think, Mike, your ideas, we can absolutely address both of them, those each and every time. And I think we have a responsibility to. I don't see any questions. I will call for the question.
Okay, we'll do the vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Against? Myself, because if that's the case, it's all those financial things should be listed in the same memo, so. But anyway, motion passed. That's my reasoning for it. You would list that, please, Ann.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it. We'll send this out to you all via email, so you have it for your records. And Mike, this is a copy for you of the hiring policy. We do not allow people to hire friends. That policy is pretty detailed. There was some misunderstandings that having an interview panel was a violation of open meeting laws. Well, interview processes are private. They are never open to the public. One of the reasons is on any application there'll be a question, can we let your current employer know? If a person says no, then that's private. You don't open the doors for, the public to come in and watch somebody get interviewed. It's a violation of their rights to privacy. So in order to clear up that misunderstanding, what we did is we drafted exactly what we were doing as part of our hiring process. That has been adopted. It is policy, and that's what we do. The panel is involved. Each one has a statement as to who is the most qualified. Generally, a panel will agree. And then the department head hires that person that the panel decides on, not the individual. So that's another protection for the county.
few minutes ahead with, CenturyLink, internet discussion. Anybody here with him? You are? Okay. Okay, go ahead. If you want to come up here or stay where you're at, whatever you want.
Okay. You wanna go up? Let's go. So, my name is Jason Moodhart. I'm with CenturyLink. This is my coworker John Bemis, and he's a director of legislative and public policy. Is that correct? Okay. So we were asked to come and kind of talk a little bit about what our plans today, maybe what we offer today, maybe what our plans are tomorrow, and what our future looks like in the community. So, today, we have a lot of business in Townsend and the surrounding area. A lot of people have our internet. There are several businesses that have our service as well, and that has created over the last about 3 years a condition where we're kind of congested, where we have the opportunity to grow because of the ongoing customer base. So, as it stands right now, we're building what we call a ROADM project. It's just an acronym to basically say we're building a very large capacity pipe from Helena to Townsend. That will drive significant bandwidth into the business community. So, on the business side, and that's driven by a large customer that will probably provide significantly increased speeds to the consumers. That will provide 100 meg or even 1 gig for community entities like the county, like the city, like the hospital. Places that have asked for and can get now or will be able to get in the near term. We're hoping to have that done by the end of August. So if sooner, great, but that's kind of the standing timeline today. So what that means for the community is, again, the business community will be have a significant ability to go and purchase bandwidth. So what that doesn't mean is they'll still be able to, they'll still need to purchase or facilitate building fiber into their buildings if it doesn't already exist. So like the school district, for example, they might want a bigger pipe into their community or into their complex building. That would still require fiber being built at the local level. But as far as the pipe goes, as far as any limitations in relationship to bandwidth into the community, that will be alleviated. The next step in the near term, that'll be alleviated. I always say it'll be alleviated, and then 3 years from now we'll need to build even a bigger pipe just because of the amount of bandwidth that people use nowadays. So I don't want to get Pollyannish and say it solves the world's problems for Townsend, but it certainly facilitates some growth that maybe wouldn't be there today. The next step is the consumer side. The consumer side won't be addressed for probably another 2.5 years. If anybody's not familiar with CAF, Connect America Fund is something that CenturyLink went into, and John, you can elaborate if you want. But essentially, we are required to reach underserved communities. By taking this money, we were required just to go and provide underserved communities a minimum of a minimum speed. So that means north of Townsend, south of Townsend, and some areas in between, we'll be able to get up to 40 meg. The minimum for those is 10 meg down, 1 meg up. But there will be a lot of people that will be able to much faster speeds. That is really kind of the current state of affairs for CenturyLink. In the short term, is there any questions?
Of course, how you're talking about that, maybe in 3 years have to put this bigger pipe in. Why don't you do it to start off with?
Well, the big pipe's going to come in today. So the big pipe's being built today. So that will be able to address the business community at large in Townsend. So the CAF money is to address consumer only, so homes, and what that means is a significant increase in build. So the pipe, you have the core network that comes down, and then you have all what we call laterals or distribution to all the different small little pockets. So that is always our most financially expensive piece. It's the most expensive piece, is to get to all those little places in communities, because you have right-of-way issues, you have road bores, you have to go through existing community infrastructure to get there. It's always the most expensive piece. So, and it's just on the docket. So we have a 6-year build, and throughout this 6-year build, there's communities that come and go. Come meaning, they come up. We're going to build at this. It's just a whole entire pipeline of different communities across the state that's being addressed by this CAF funding.
Other questions?
I have a few.
Yeah.
You mentioned 1 gig would go to the county, to the hospital, to the city.
Mm-hmm.
Is that 1 gig each?
Yeah, that's just and that's an example. I mean, if you, if the bank wanted a gig, they could get a gig, and
Okay.
it's the term is what we call Metro Optical Ethernet. So it's not a DSL product like a consumer product. It's a product that is, we'll use 100 meg for an example. 100 meg up and 100 meg down. So 100 meg you're going to receive 100 meg, and then you'll be able to transmit 100 meg. In the hospital application, it's particularly important, especially in smaller healthcare communities where they're utilizing other larger facilities to do maybe radiological things, maybe do CAT scans. Maybe someone's getting life flighted out and they want to send that information to that other hospital. And the bigger the pipe out, so the bigger upload speeds they can do, the more effective they can be and the quicker. So that, say Pat's or wherever they're going to go, Billings Clinic, whatever it is, they'll be able to get that information and everybody will be ready to go. So I mentioned the technology because it's a little bit different than a consumer. Metro Ethernet is a little bit different than DSL, which is digital subscriber loop. And that's what provides, by and large, most consumers broadband, if you purchase services from CenturyLink.
So is there a limit to the number of gigs that would be coming into Townsend or could be coming into Townsend?
Yes. So eventually, enough subscribers get on there. It's just like anything. Enough people get on there, then we'll have to upgrade it. But the difference between what we do today and what we do in the future with the ROADM is it's much less labor intensive because the equipment's already there. So equipment's there. It really becomes a card swap out. You're swapping out pieces of gear instead of wholesale infrastructure.
So you mentioned the end of August.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be, how many gigs would that be at
That'll
the end
be,
of August?
okay, so that'll be, and I don't want you to get hung up on the 10, because I'm going to say 10 gig. Instantly you start doing the math and you say, oh, well, that's only 10 customers that could buy a gig. Well, that's not the way the technology works. So it's this big pipe. Whoever gets on that pipe gets to use it. Whoever's off the pipe's not using it. So think of a highway. So everybody's getting on the highway. Eventually it gets congested the more, you get customers on there. But if you think about a highway and people getting on and off on a 10 gig pipe, it's like a 6-lane highway or 10-lane highway instead of a 2-lane highway. So you have plenty of bandwidth to grow for the foreseeable future, unless there's some significant growth outside of the existing business community. Because a lot of business customers are going to buy 100 meg, frankly. Even 40 meg. A lot of customers are going to buy 40 meg. 40 meg up, 40 meg down.
So is there an opportunity, or is the plan, CenturyLink, you have a fiber coming in right behind Betsy?
Yeah, we already have fiber here, but yeah.
Okay, so you'll be just increasing that, or is
Yeah,
that, okay.
yeah.
So is there an option for a POP here in Townsend, a point of
Presence?
presence, yes, thank you.
Yeah, I suppose. In relationship to providing bandwidth for other vendors, or like?
Well, ideally, we have to have it. I mean, there's just no question. We need to have it in Townsend, but what about Winston? What about Toston, Raidersburg?
Yeah, so really that in our plan, CAF is really designed to go to Toston, to go to Fire Hall, north of town, places like that. That's really the CAF build,
Okay.
frankly.
So if you bring in the package that you're talking about for the businesses, you mentioned the consumers are probably 2.5 years
Yep.
out, but that would free up the freeway so that
Yes.
those consumers for the next 2 years would have increased
Yes.
internet or broadband or services, even though you haven't brought in the CAF yet, correct?
Yes. So that would definitely relieve any congestion.
Okay.
So today, just like a lot of our other COs in larger communities, we provide out of the central office, we provide 12 meg down. And now you can bond that, you can do some things, but basically it's 12 meg down. So I know that in meetings before, and then obviously conversations, that there's concern about ongoing congestion. So once that pipe gets opened up, congestion will definitely, if someone's paying and the distance from the central office is within the limits, they should be getting 12 meg, give or take.
Okay.
Long answer to say yes.
Right. So is your plan at all to work with Zayo?
No.
What significance is there that they have fiber lines going right through this city, this town,
Yeah.
but no off-ramp?
So Zayo uses that fiber, and obviously I'm not Zayo, so I'm speculating a little bit, but Zayo uses that fiber for ULH or long haul services to maybe Missoula, or to maybe Helena and then on to Missoula. They're in the same path that we are. AT&T, Verizon, Facebook. They don't use that to provide end user subscriber support. So they use that to take massive amounts of bandwidth from, say, Seattle and transport it to Minneapolis, or Seattle to LA, or wherever the destination is, back and forth across the country. But the term for that is ULH, usually is ultra long haul. So they're bringing huge amounts of bandwidth. So they aggregate data from all these different people, and then they say, okay, we'll give us I'll give you a wholesale price to transport your data. so that smaller organizations don't have to build their own network to get across the country. So Zayo's, even ourselves, we do it. We categorize that fiber as long haul, and we wouldn't break that out either. We would build a secondary network. So my assumption about that is that Zayo would probably not be interested in doing that. That's my assumption. Obviously, you'd have to talk to Zayo about that, but yeah, that's kind of my synopsis of that.
Okay. So, is it a cost issue for you guys or a timeline issue for you guys for the wheeling of the data? We've got Blackfoot interested in coming in. We've got Montana Internet that I understand you guys are working with. We've also got GlobalNet. How does that work?
In relationship to interacting with each other?
Yeah. We don't care about the health of CenturyLink.
Right.
To be totally
Obviously,
honest with
yeah.
you. We care about the health of our community.
Right.
And we would like to see you working with as many partners as possible, but we understand your business model is you have to make money.
Mm-hmm.
We have to have internet, decent
Mm-hmm.
internet, which we
Mm-hmm.
don't have. What's the partner outlook look like, or what's the strength of your package?
So, obviously, I'm here with CenturyLink, and we believe that when we have the network in place, there's really very few that can compete with us. Not only just the broadband, that's just one piece, but all the ancillary things like our cloud applications and all the other things that go along with what we can provide. We feel like we're very difficult to compete with. Price-wise, we're probably generally never going to be the cheapest because we feel like we spend a lot of extra time in building a network that doesn't break. So with that, there's a little bit of extra cost. So generally speaking, we're probably never going to be the cheapest. As far as partnering with people, we do it all the time. So where it makes sense, we partner. So, you mentioned Montana Internet. We're gonna, obviously it's a business arrangement, and they're gonna buy, they're potentially buy network services from us, and we're gonna provide them with a service so they can provide maybe the larger community. So, it's always a partnership. It is in today's business, and today's telecommunications business is very difficult to do it on our own, just because price compression. So you have this massive additional use of bandwidth, yet we don't get any more money for it. So if I'm gonna charge somebody $50 today, I have to increase my network and grow my network at a substantial cost to still provide more bandwidth, but I don't ask for any more money because the price compression is such in our business that it stays flat. So, lots of times we build these networks and there isn't a whole lot of additional revenue for us. So the revenue stays flat, but we take older technologies and roll it into a different technology like MO. So say somebody's buying a bunch of T1s, and then we roll it into a MO. We don't really make any more money. So I say all that to say, yeah, we always are game to partner, if it makes sense.
You had mentioned on the phone price for consumers.
Yeah.
Again, I know we're 2.5 years
Yeah.
out, but what do you expect that the price to consumers will be on a monthly basis for the higher speed broadband?
So under $50. So in communities where we roll out CAF, 40 meg for the first year is $29.95. With taxes, it's like $34. That's bandwidth only. So that's internet. You add local dial tone, you'll add dial tone and some other things onto there, then it will be $60, $70. But as far as a standalone product, that's kind of the going rate. I would say I'm going to be safe by saying anything under $50 is probably going to get you 40 meg and below. If you start bonding that, which we take 2 of those circuits and put them together, and you get 80 meg, for an example, then you need to pay more. So that's why I kind of couched that a little bit, but probably a pretty good guideline.
So, we've been hearing an awful lot about fiber versus wireless.
Yep.
Can you speak to which is better and why, or what the pros and cons are of each? And what your package looks like that you're suggesting?
Yeah, so I would say that we don't, I would say that we have some wireless in our network across the country. Again, it's something that we prefer not to do because we feel like fiber, once in the ground, at this point in technology, is kind of limitless based on what gear you put on either end of it. So wireless spectrum can run out of gas. It has some limitations. The other thing that I think fiber probably does a better job at is regardless of what kind of weather is going on, regardless of what wind, rain, hail, you name the situation as far as weather goes. Certainly fiber in the ground is, there might be a rogue post hole digger that hits her fiber or something like that, which does happen. I mean, but the security of the fiber is probably a little better. Contrast, the pros and cons. Fiber is going to take longer to deploy. You have to get right-of-ways. You have to do a lot of staging of equipment. You have to order the equipment. I mean, right now there's such a need for fiber in the country, by and large, probably because of fat calf, because there's all these different companies that took that. What do we have? An 8-week wait on the fiber? The manufacturer, we actually had to wait for that. I've never seen that in my career, where we had to wait for the manufacturer to make fiber. So we were actually 2 months out because of that. So, there's some limitations in relationship to just the logistics of fiber and building the fiber network that don't exist with wireless. Wireless is probably a lot quicker to deploy, or can be quicker to deploy for sure.
And since you already have fiber coming into behind the Betsy, we're good with right-of-way.
Yeah,
right?
we should be okay. Absolutely, we should be okay in relationship to that. There might be some augmentations that have to happen because we might put a piece of fiber here based on future potential growth, and then we might only have 12 pair fiber here, and then we might have, so there might be some augmentation that has to happen for the finished product. But as far as easements right away is, we should be okay in that relationship.
All right. So, just one final question. Yeah. Well, I guess two. The first one is there anything we can do to bring Townsend and the calf up from 2.5 years to August or a year? What can we do to help?
Right. Yes. We have moved some stuff around. So ultimately the reason that things, the timeline is because the further you get down that 6-year timeline, the higher it costs per house. So, I mean, it's the way we planned it, So for an example, the first year or two that we're doing this calf build, you might have a house that only costs $1,000 to get to. Whereas when we get to a Townsend, it might be $5,000 or something like that. It might be a significantly increased cost to get to each house. So that's kind of the way it plans. So cost is a factor to potentially rearranging the playbook, and certainly pressure in pressure points in different organizations that could help. I've already talked to our engineering and planning organization, and there's an opportunity to potentially move it forward. We just haven't discussed it in length yet, because frankly, there's probably 10 other communities that we've talked to that have asked the same question. So, it's a tough conversation for us because we want to do the right thing in all these different communities, but some communities we just have to say no to, and maybe it's not Townsend. It's just it's a tough place to be for us, anyways. At least John and I. I'll speak for me. Yeah.
We've got an opportunity. Del Elke and Felco is planning to move from Missoula to Townsend.
Mm-hmm.
And we very much need for that to happen, not only for them, but for our community as well. So if there's something we can do to help move that along, they're not planning on coming until this spring.
Right.
So August works.
Yeah.
Is there a way that we can get a solid that you guys are definitely going to do this? Maybe not by August 30th, but yes, we're going to do this and we're shooting for August.
As far as the ROADM and the fiber and all that stuff, yeah, it's a finished deal. We're already working on it. It's already funded. That's happening.
Okay.
So, yes, that's in the works. It's going to happen, and we should have anything that company needs available for them to have a solid broadband.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah. There's no, and really, the sooner we know where they build, the easier it is for us to start quoting them and identifying what we need to build for them too. Because if it's in the spring, maybe it'd be good for us to talk to representatives of theirs so that we understand, or at least give them the option of CenturyLink, right? So that we know, because it's wherever they're built, we're going to need to build fiber to them based on their needs. So.
They're just a couple miles north of town. We can show you.
Oh, well then that should be okay.
All right.
Yeah.
When you came in, did you see the Landtamer building? That's where we're talking. It's just on the other side of the mansion. Maybe 4 miles? 8 miles? No.
8 miles.
Of Townsend?
About 7.
We're 8.
Yeah, but 7 from here. By the time you go to their equipment.
Oh, all right. They're a little ways off the highway, I guess. So, that's all my questions, unless I missed something I should have asked. And I'm looking to you guys because I see a number of experts.
You talked in very general terms.
Yeah.
And you talk about August, but specifically, you talk about building a pipe. So you're taking the fiber,
right,
and you're gonna start using a portion of that here.
Well,
But then,
yeah.
Okay, so you have your point behind the Betsy. How far out can that go for businesses?
Every business that's a thing. I mean, so if you're copper fed today, we can provide up to 40 meg up and 40 meg down as a business product based on existing copper. If you want more than that.
But how far from where you're coming off your fiber down here by the Betsy? How far out? Specifics.
Yeah, so it depends on the wire gauge. So 22, 24, 26 wire gauge, depending on the copper. Depends on, I would say 5,000 to 7,000 feet away from the CO. So I probably am safe in saying 5,000 feet.
A mile.
Yeah, so about a mile, based on copper. Now fiber, really.
So in the case of the business that wants to move here and they're 8 miles out,
we build fiber to those guys. We build fiber.
In what time frame? Is that something that you contract with the business for?
Yes.
They pay you to?
Yes, absolutely.
To plow
Yeah,
fiber
so it all depends on what they buy, frankly. If they buy a massive pipe from us, then we might not charge them any construction fees. If they buy a it's all how the contract's negotiated. They might pay a portion of the construction fees. We might roll it into their monthly reoccurring costs. So say it's a $1,500 a month cost, and we roll $500 a month of that. So now it's a total monthly recurring cost of $2,000. Or they say, no, I want to build it first, or I want to pay for that first. Okay, I'm going to pay you $30,000 or $10,000 or whatever it would cost to go 8 miles. And I hate to be general because I've seen 8-mile build cost $50,000, and then I've seen 8-mile build cost $5,000. So it really is dependent on how many road bores we do, how many permits we have to purchase, all that stuff.
Now, you said you're building this project, this pipe, but you never really were specific about how big that pipe is.
It's a 10 gig pipe.
Okay, and it's going to, and you must have contracts with 1 or 2 individuals, so you probably have a certain amount of that that's sold or guaranteed at this point.
Yeah.
And how much, in a percent of that pipe, have you already got commitments for then? 25, half of it?
No.
Okay.
Not that much.
Okay.
No, not that much. I would say there's probably going to be, after some augmentation in relationship to some congestion and issues, you're probably still going to have 75% availability.
I'm trying to get a feel of more specifics about how quickly it's going to become congested, and then we have to wait for things to get uncongested.
Yeah, we've been putting these pipes around. I haven't seen one get super congested yet, but it'll happen. It's just the way that it's the nature of the industry. So you can't think about it in empirical way in relationship to that 10 gig pipe, though. I guess that's what I want to make sure I communicate effectively. If you have a person that has 100 meg, you can't say, well, now I have 9.9 gig and I can't sell any more than 9.9 gig. There's going to be a certain level of oversubscription on that, because when you get on that highway, you're going to get off an off ramp, and someone else is going to get on that highway. So you're creating a highway with multiple lanes. So today you got 2-lane highway. Now you're going to create a pipe with multiple lanes. So now that you're going to have free-flowing traffic, but you can have more than just 10 cars or 6 cars on that lane, if that makes sense.
Well, I was more interested in knowing if the size, what you're putting in place, if that's mostly sold, and
No.
it wouldn't take long before.
No. I would say that we built the initial fiber in here in 2011, 2010, 2011, maybe 2012, something like that. And it has taken about 4 or 5 years for it to start adding up. Now, this network that we're fixing to build is much larger than that. So I feel like you'd have to see, frankly, it'd have to be some significant growth in Townsend, which would be good for the community, but I mean, it'd be significant to really clog this one up.
Is there any alternatives for businesses that are not within 1 mile of this point to get access other than plowing fiber? Is there any other way of doing it?
I think there's alternative opportunities, not ones that necessarily CenturyLink is going to provide, frankly. So, the CAF is going to address some of that in remoter areas, and I say remote, a few miles out, 5 miles out. But I mean, the majority of the customers that I hope to attract are going to be on fiber, frankly. So.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, Jason, there's 3 or 4 commercial lots behind the Felco, the to-be Felco business.
Right.
So if you put out your fiber to Felco,
Yeah.
do you have the ability then to jump off from that point to the other ones?
Yeah.
And that would be probably a lesser cost or a shared
Yes,
cost?
absolutely. So what we do in that situation is we put what you just call a splitter shelf. So one fiber feeds 8, And in those situations, we call the product Fiber Plus. And the cost is significantly less. It's a little bit different technology. The way we carry the traffic is a little different, but you still are going to get 100 meg up and 100 meg down, for example. But you pay significantly less because there's not added. It's more of a residential. I don't want to say residential. It's more of a. It's designed for a lower cost fiber solution for a customer. So honestly, I could see that happening in the business community here in Townsend, where we would put a splitter, and we would sell Fiber Plus. Is the product? That's what it's called. It used to be called IPC. So if you call CenturyLink, someone might say IPC, but if you're talking to me, it's Fiber Plus. So
If a business needs 100 meg,
right.
Are you dedicating 100 meg to them, or?
Okay, so there's the differentiator. There's really the differentiator. So Fiber Plus, dedicated, yes, dedicated bandwidth, but you are sharing it within multiple communities. So it has the potential of getting congested if all 10 of you guys are trying to upload engineering plans, for an example, or something like that. The Mo product that I'm talking about, that we sell a lot of, is dedicated. And we have SLAs, so in other words, if it breaks, we have X amount of time to fix it. If we don't fix it in that time, we start paying you back money. There's some significant business guarantees in there. So that is a dedicated service up and down. And someone actually, our organization proactively monitors that. So a lot of times in those situations, we'll get a trouble ticket or something happens, right? Fiber gets cut or whatever. That we're actually proactively monitoring that network, and we're going to send you or call you or contact you and say, hey, we noticed this with your network. The Fiber Plus, no, Fiber Plus is not like that. So that's kind of the differentiator. It's a good question.
Jason, kind of an unpleasant topic, but
Yeah.
One of the advantages that Blackfoot
Sure.
is saying is customer support.
Yeah.
Their customer support is in Helena or Missoula.
Missoula.
You talk to a real person that doesn't have a foreign accent, and because CenturyLink is already here for various things, we have more stories about CenturyLink.
Sure.
But where people have had poor service.
Right. Customer service.
Customer service, yeah. Trying to get problems resolved, usually on install, once things are up and running.
Mm-hmm.
But on the install time, and
Mm-hmm.
can you address that?
So, what I'll say to you about that is, everybody will have my contact information. Dave Wilson, the local supervisor, he's in Helena, and if there's issues that are not resolved, I think really that's the outlet that you have, is Dave Wilson and myself. Frankly, we operate in 37 states. Some of our customer call center issues come up. It's not unique to Townsend. I don't know that there's always an opportunity to improve there. That's what I'll say. Frankly, I mean, you have an outlet in Dave Wilson and myself. Even John here, he's in Helena as well. If things are not getting resolved in a timely manner. And, the business community is going to build a relationship with one of two different sales people. Jack Hooksack, who's in Bozeman, and Ed Hassel, who's in Billings with me. So, and we just brought on, so for an example, the county the county, the school, the hospital, they're going to have dedicated service reps. So you're going to call that service rep, or you're going to have specific direct. So if anything goes wrong, you're going to have a direct line. You're not going to call to you're going to call to an 800 number, you're going to call to one of 3 people or something like that. You're not calling. It's a whole different organization. On the consumer side, Dave and myself are probably the best outlet, frankly. Or John. He loves those phone calls too. He usually gets them through the Public Service Commission. So.
Any more questions?
Yeah, so we're talking bringing just everything into towns here, so what are you gonna do for the outlying areas, the Lazy HM subdivision area, the south end of the county? Where does service come in for those particular parts of the county? And once you get outside of this local area where you can run cable and it's getting way too expensive to run that stuff, is there any way to reach beyond to like say 8 or 9 miles from this point without doing the dig in and everything?
The way that we do it, no.
So are you gonna drop into Lazy HM and then eventually get to the south end of the county? Or?
Yeah, so that's that CAF build. The CAF build addresses all those, not all, but a lot of those different areas in the county.
Is there any way of knowing what CenturyLink's really planning with that CAF money, and where specific points where they're going to provide access?
So
I'm going to speak.
John's going to talk
speak
about
to
this.
this.
Yeah, I'll get in trouble.
I've been quiet long enough. So I manage the Connect America Fund program, and just to give you the background of what Connect America Fund is, if you take a look at your phone bill, on your bill you'll have a charge that says Federal USF. Now years ago, back in the Bell days, the USF, when it was created, was designed to offset extreme high cost rural areas for telcos who weren't making any money being in the business, but had what we call COLR obligation, carrier of last resort. So they're the provider that must provide phone service, dial tone phone service to the very remote areas. Now, as the inception of cell service came on board and people became more connected, that wasn't necessary as much. Dial tone started dropping off, and we've seen, I think, anywhere between 5 and 10% decrease in dial tone customers here in the state of Montana. So what we had at one point was close to 500,000 dial tone customers in the state of Montana. We're approximately around 100,000 now in the state of Montana, and a majority of those are your business type customers. So our as Jason mentioned, our customer has changed. So we'll provide the fiber and the bandwidth to the cell towers. They provide the bandwidth and the dial tone to the cell phone users. Well, what happened was that program during the last administration was moved to a broadband focused model. So what the Connect America Fund, when it started, did away with all of the dial tone support and focused solely on broadband support. Now, the regulations and rules around Connect America Fund, and we're in phase 2, so there was already a phase 1, and just so you know, there's over 5,000 eligible CAF locations in the state of Montana. We're probably going to hit less than 1,000 of them right now in this next 6-year period. There are a lot of eligible areas. So what considers an eligible area? So the Federal Communications, they work with the Census Bureau. So every 10 years the Census Bureau goes out and they do their study, and they determine how many people are in a census block. Now, they compile all this information. Obviously, it was 2010 the last time that they did the Census Bureau. And so until they do the next one, a lot of things have changed in that 7-year period of time. So they do what's called a cost forward model. So they basically guess at how many people may grow in a certain census bureau or census block. And then they put the model together and they say, okay, number one, they have